Inihahandog ng NSTP Diliman Office ang Sikhay Lingkod V, an online volunteerism fair.
The NSTP Diliman Office Director, Dennis Quilala. Assistant Professor Dennis Quilala. Go ahead, Sir Dennis.
Maraming salamat, Sir Carl. Isang mainit po na pagbati sa ating lahat mula po sa bumubuo ng tanggapan ng NSTP Diliman, sa National Service Reserve Corps po at sa mga kasama ko sa Konseho ng Tagapag-ugnay ng NSTP. Inihatid po namin sa inyo ang Sikhay Lingkod. Ang volunteerismo po ay bahagi na ng kultura ng ating universidad. Ilang dekada na po ba ang UP pahinungon? Ilang mga organisasyong mag-aaral na ba ang mga may outreach programs? Sa NSTP po, tampok ang volunteerismo sa tatak UPD NSTP Common Module at ito na ang ikalimang taon ng Sikhay Lingkod. Matapos po ang 20 taon ng NSTP Law, ngayon pa lamang po idinagdag sa NSTP Implementing Rules and Regulations ang layuning palaganapin ang volunteerismo bilang layunin ng NSTP. Hindi lang po tayo compliant sa NSTP law sa UP Diliman, minsan po ay nangunguna pa tayo sa NSTP. Ano po ba ang layunin ng Sikhay Lingkod V, ang online volunteerism fair? Ang una po nating gustong gawin ay ipagpatuloy ang mas malalim na pag-intindi sa salitang volunteerismo. Nung nakarang taon po, tinignan natin ang volunteerismo sa konteksto ng pandemya na tinatanong po natin, posible ba ang online volunteerism? Hindi lamang po ito naging posible, ito po ay nararapat lalo na po sa konteksto ng pandemya. Kung meron pong pangangailangan, kinakailangan po tumugon ng mga isko at iska ng bayan. Ngayong taon po, kasama ang Philippine National Volunteer Service Coordinating Agency, titignan naman po natin ang kaugnayan ng volunteerismo sa pag-unlad. Maraming salamat po sa ating tagapagsalita na si Binibining Fely Baday na kinatawan po ni Executive Director Donald James Gawe ng PNVSCA at sa lahat po ng bumubuo ng kanilang organisasyon. Maaari ba natin na i-welcome ang PNVSCA sa pamamagitan ng mga heart reacts? Ayan, tsaka may mga palakpak na rin po. Miss Baday, welcome po sa Sikhay Lingkod. Maraming salamat po sa pagsama po sa amin. Ang ikalawang layunin po ay maipalapit ang ating mga kasamang organisasyon sa mga mag-aaral at guro ng NSTP sa UP Diliman. Sa ating mga NSTP students dyan at mga teachers, naghahanap pa ba kayo ng mga makakasamang organisasyon para sa inyong mga NSTP projects? Kasi baka dito na ninyo sila makilala. Sa ating mga reservists o mga mag-aaral na nagtapos ng NSTP, ninanais niyo bang ilaan ang inyong mga oras at talento sa napapanahong mga advokasya? Baka sa Sikhay Lingkod na ang simula ng inyong kwentong voluntarismo. Sa susunod na taon po, lalayunin naman natin ang gawing bukas ang Sikhay Lingkod sa mga UP administrators, sa iba pang mga UP teachers, at sa iba pang kawani ng universidad. Magwa 1 UP po tayo para sa volunteerismo. Salamat po sa 21 organisasyon, organization partner na o katuwang natin sa Sikhay Lingkod. Babanggitin ko lang po sila isa-isa, no? So, una nga po ang Philippine National Volunteer Service Coordinating Agency, ang Department of Social Welfare and Development po ng NCR, ang Civil Relations Service Armed Forces of the Philippines, ang Citizens Disaster Response Center Foundation Incorporated, ang Center for Disaster Preparedness, Office of Civil Defense, Wide Gold Incorporated, Quezon City Firefighters Volunteer Association Incorporated, Akay Missions Philippines, ang Asuncion A. Perez Memorial Center Incorporated, ang Make-A-Wish Foundation Philippines, ang Philippine Native Tree Enthusiasts, ang Philippine Eagle Foundation, ang Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities, ang Haribon Foundation, the Climate Reality Project Philippines, ang Human Rights Violations Victims Memorial Commission, ang Santa Maria Bulacan Municipal Jail, ang YTech Manila, Kapit Kamay Alternative Learning Avenue for the Youth, at kasama rin po dito ang National Service Reserve Corps. Mainit po na pagbati mula sa UP Diliman sa inyong mga partner organizations namin. Sa ating mga kasama online, magbigay naman tayo ng heart react o thumbs up para sa ating mga kasamang organisasyon ngayong hapon. Ayan. Welcome po sa UP Diliman. Alamin po natin ang kanilang mga salaysay at makibahagi po sana tayo sa kanilang mga kwento. Mabuhay po kayong lahat at sama-sama po nating itaguyod ang masikhay at tapat na serbisyo sa ating mahal na bayan.
Now, what comes to your mind when you hear or see the word bayanihan? Groups of men lifting nipa hats, a community helping each other out. Regardless of what you think, I think we can agree that it is such a beautiful word. For some other local languages, it could be translated as damayan, kawanggawa, barangayan, pahinungod, bahaginan, saranay, and many more as adopted by certain institutions. We have noted that even in the early years, volunteerism is embedded in the tradition of sharing and helping each other, such as what we see in this picture on your screen. But what exactly is volunteerism? Let us first clarify some basic definitions. The United Nations Volunteers, or UNV, describes volunteerism as a wide range of activities undertaken of free will for the general public good, for which monetary reward is not the principal motivating factor. Translated in Filipino, alam natin na ito, ang voluntarismo ay kusang loob na pagtulong sa kapwa na walang hinahangad na kapalit o kabayaran. I believe most of you, if not all, are familiar with or are using the 3K mnemonics of volunteerism. Similarly, what does Republic Act 9418 or the Volunteer Act of 2007 say about volunteerism? RA 9418 provides a more in-depth description of volunteerism, which states that volunteerism not only benefits the actual beneficiaries of these acts of goodwill, but also the volunteers themselves. I'll expound on this in a bit. RA 9418 also explains that volunteers undertake these acts due to reasons arising from social, developmental, business, or corporate orientation, commitment, or conviction for the attainment of the public good. And similar to UND's definition, volunteerism is an act where monetary and other incentives or rewards are not the primary motivating factors. Emphasis on the term, not the primary motivating factors. There are some technicalities here, but we'll be glad to discuss them with you some other time. Now, what is volunteer work? The International Labor Organization, or ILO, describes volunteer work similarly with the other two definitions, but added that volunteer activities are performed either through an organization, which is usually called formal volunteering, or directly for others outside their own household or related family members, or informal volunteering. As an example, providing hot meals for evacuees of a calamity can be considered as volunteerism, but providing food for your family cannot, or is not considered volunteerism. Now, as volunteers, what can you give? Previously, our mnemonic was the 3 Ks. Now we will use the 3 Ts, which perhaps is again familiar to you. People can volunteer their time, their talent or skills, and their treasure. For time, we can volunteer in elderly nursing facilities or packing relief goods in packing facilities. For talent or skill, a musically inclined NSTP student or NSRC member can volunteer to teach children music or how to play a musical instrument like guitar, kalimba, piano, or whatever musical instrument you know, or teach kids in the community who struggle in math or in any other subjects. For treasure, we can donate our resources, be it through financial means or in kind, such as offering your vacant space at home or in your building to be used as venue for youth development activities, for meetings of elderly people, or for PWDs, and among others. But why do people volunteer? I'm sure many of you are active volunteers in your respective communities, and you all have your own reasons for doing so. Some of the major reasons why people volunteer include community concern. Let me provide a specific example. The community pantries. We've all heard of this before, especially during the early onset of the pandemic. Private individuals setting up pantries in their community where they provide for free various goods to their neighbors, be it fruits, vegetables, rice, canned goods, and more. These individuals who set up these pantries all noticed a similar problem in their respective communities and decided to take a small step to address this, and did what they did to the benefit of their neighbors. People volunteer because they value helping other people. Kindness is something that all volunteers possess, the kindness to think of others before ourselves. Another reason is self-esteem enhancement. Volunteering means stepping out of your comfort zone and going out of your way to help others. Some people may be shy and naturally timid, but through volunteering, it may help them break out their shell and contribute to the community. Volunteers also feel good when they know that they are able to provide help, especially to the most in need. People volunteer for personal development. Some people just want to become better individuals, and by volunteering, it gives them a sense of achievement. Perhaps they gain a new skill because of their experiences, or maybe their networks are expanded because of the amount of people they meet during their time. And the fifth reason that I'd like to share is that people volunteer to satisfy the need to understand others. For others, volunteering is a way to gain a better understanding of different places, cultures, and people. The most common examples of this type of attribute are when volunteers travel to other countries to help build schools, aid those who are sick or injured, or serve underdeveloped communities. Through communication and immersion, people develop a sense of belonging, making them understand what their beneficiaries are going through. These are just some basic reasons, but I sure know there are a lot of more reasons why you volunteer. But what benefit does one get from volunteering? Well, volunteering brings about positive impact to the person volunteering, especially on improving his or her human capital, improving his or her self-esteem, meeting new friends, among others. At the individual level, volunteerism can be viewed as an end in what some people find satisfaction in volunteering, especially when they see people happy with their volunteer work. Now, what are the other benefits? Volunteering enhances knowledge, skills, values, networks, image, sense of fulfillment, capacity building, partnership, economic value, citizen engagement, and building human and social capital for both the people and the volunteer. Volunteering can help you gain confidence by giving you the chance to try something new and build a real sense of achievement, and leadership skills are developed. Volunteering can create a difference through the contributions made in the life of the people being helped and the transformation it has made to volunteer. It provides the opportunity to meet new people like officials and clients being served and make new friends who can make their life horizon wider and experience richer and closer. Since you serve other people, you are exposed to be part of the community. As the trainees serve, they will also improve and at the same time learn new knowledge. Serving for others is very challenging since they do not know whom they will serve. And at the same time, they will deal with people with various cultures and beliefs. It is happy because they meet new friends, challenge their leadership potentials, gain new experiences, help others, and feel self-fulfillment and satisfaction. Now, majority of the volunteers provide volunteer work in their own countries and communities like you to help eliminate poverty. So this is one benefit of volunteering: improve basic health and education, provide a safe water supply and adequate sanitation, tackle environmental issues and climate change, reduce the risk of disasters, and combat social exclusion and violent conflict. In the 2015 report also, it says that it promotes good governance, it builds trust, promote inclusion, and strengthen community resilience, strengthens local ownership of development processes, fosters social innovation through new forms of collaboration, and promotes sustainable behavior by modeling new norms. It is also said that volunteering enhances the social connections between sectors, builds the bridges for governments, enterprises, and employees. Volunteering also makes a significant contribution to the economy. Whenever you volunteer, you benefit the national economy because for the nation to grow, community development has to take place. Volunteering in education, feeding the hungry, building shelter, and in other projects help people get access to the basic needs and also helps them understand what they need to do in order to develop their own economy. So let's take a look at how volunteering contributes to the growth of a country's economy. So in 2014, volunteerism contributed 23 billion pounds to the British economy, or 1.3% in their total GDP. And looking at the slide, the Philippines, however, the first attempt to measure the economic contribution of volunteerism to the economy was done in 2009. Results show that volunteering contributed to 0.6% of our gross domestic product, amounting to $44.5 billion. At constant prices, volunteer contribution increased by 6.4% on an annual basis. This year, PNVSCA has partnered with the Philippine Statistics Authority to gather volunteerism data through the community-based monitoring system and labor force surveys to approximate the economic contribution of volunteer assistance to our economy so that we can use this updated data on volunteer statistics. So globally, how many do you think are volunteering per month? According to the UNV's 2022 State of World Volunteering Report, please think, almost 15% or 862 million people volunteer per month. These are volunteers who are 15 years old or older. Okay, so having heard the basic concepts on volunteerism and some data on volunteering, the next question is, why is the Philippine government, through the Philippine National Volunteer Service Coordinating Agency, or PNVSCA, promoting volunteerism as a development strategy? Before we answer that, please allow me to introduce PNVSCA briefly. Or among the participants today, how many of you know anything about PNVSCA? Please type PNVSCA in the chat box if you know our agency. Okay, so PNVSCA is the government agency mandated to promote and advocate for volunteerism as a legitimate development strategy. At present, our priorities include mainstreaming volunteerism at the national and subnational levels, as well as the integration of volunteerism in the basic and higher education curricula. As a policymaking agency, we review and formulate policies related to volunteerism, and we help promote and coordinate the volunteer programs to assist our volunteers and volunteer service organizations, but we do not mobilize volunteers nor implement volunteerism programs ourselves. We coordinate volunteer programs. Why are we advocating for volunteerism as a development strategy? As presented in the earlier slide, volunteering contributes to the growth of a country's economy. Another reason is that governments may not have all the resources to provide the needed public services. For instance, this pandemic, we said that we need we need not just a whole of government, but whole of nation or society approach. This is in consideration that government resources are limited. This is why the public and private sectors should always work hand in hand. So a third reason is experiences show that a number of non-government organizations could better provide such as services or support in a cost-efficient and effective manner, especially for some sector-specific concerns. Examples of this are running institutional facilities like Home for the Aged. They have the resources and initiatives related to changing behavior of people. And lastly, relating to a previous point, volunteerism engenders greater private sector participation in governance and development. We say that a key ingredient or manifestation of good governance is that the participation of private sector or the citizens. And the more the people are involved, the better. Now, why adopt volunteerism as a development strategy? What is the big picture? The big picture is a Philippine society that is matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay sa taong 2040. I think you're already familiar with this, the ambition natin 2040. To achieve our vision, we have laid out medium-term plans. This is in the PDP, which is updated every 6 years to coincide with the term of the president. A midterm review is also being done, that is 3 years after the release of the PDP. Thus, the PDP midterm update to keep the plan relevant and responsive to the needs of our country. In achieving these medium and long-term goals, volunteerism comes into play. The volunteering initiatives that we do individually or through organizations are not standalone nor a fad, but are intended to contribute in achieving a higher level purpose or the societal objectives as articulated in the development plans, the PDP, and you're familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals or Agenda 2030. Volunteering initiatives are intended to address negative conditions in the society or help harness some development potentials. As such, we are not content with simply counting the number of volunteers, knowing whether there are volunteer programs in the government agencies or whether there are volunteer organizations, but looking into whether the volunteering activities or initiatives contribute in addressing development concerns. As mentioned earlier, volunteerism has been recognized as a cross-cutting strategy in the Philippine Development Plan. The PDP is the government's blueprint where priorities of the political leadership are translated into policy and strategy framework and then into programs and projects. From policy to action, the PDP reflects all of the 17 SDGs. The integration of the SDGs in the PDP is essential as this document serves as a guide to the national budget planning and appropriations. So, in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, volunteers help leave no one behind by reaching out to people, including those marginalized or difficult to reach, to bring people's voices and knowledge into collective actions. But how do we sustain volunteering? Volunteerism should have a lasting impact, especially to the communities that are benefiting. One example is the cleanup drives in local steros and nearby in the neighborhoods. Volunteer programs should not just focus on the actual cleaning up of the premises. As noble as this effort may be, it wouldn't really be sustainable if the people living in the community continue with their old ways. An approach for this would be to help them understand and actually do segregation, recycling, and proper disposal of waste, among others. I'm sure this example can be related to lots more. As responsible volunteers and for sustainable volunteering, we must also remember the application of the do no harm principle or DNH, which is one of the principles that must be observed according to the Philippine standards for volunteering for development. The standards for volunteering for development states that application of DNH prevents any negative effects that may be inadvertently caused by providing a volunteer's service to a community, their members, and even the volunteer before, during, and after the project. In other words, DNH is recognizing the potential negative effects of interventions, thus avoiding the exposure of people to additional risks through our actions. Baka sa halip na makatulong ay makasama pa ang gagawing pagtulong. So we take a step back from an intervention to look at the broader context and mitigate potential negative effects on the social fabric, the economy, and the environment. Think before you act. Okay, so as charity.co.uk put it, sustainable volunteering is a commitment to giving back without leaving a destructive footprint. Now, the final big bullet point of my message today, youth. It may be a cliche statement, but Dr. Rizal said it best, kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan. The same is true in the context of volunteerism. Young people are dynamic. Young people are idealistic. Young people are able to think of solutions to problems. Young people are innovative. In the same way, young people's approaches to volunteerism are changing and becoming more diverse. Modern problems require modern solutions. And who can better think of this than those living their youths in the modern time? Thanks to information technology, people can volunteer remotely or through the use of online platforms. Micro-volunteering is also increasingly becoming popular. What does this tell us? It means that there may be some blockages or challenges along the way, but innovative volunteers and volunteer managers could think of solutions. Sure, there may be various stumbling blocks, but if history is any indication, young people will surely be able to face the challenges head-on, steadfast. And so, an inevitable affiliation to youth is education. The NSTP, as we all know, is one of the mandatory courses in college. Some take CWTS, LTS, or ROTC. But let me clarify that the activities done by students in this course are not volunteerism activities, KUSA, or free will. Since NSTP is a requirement for graduation, it is technically not considered a volunteerism. However, NSTP is a very good opportunity for students to cultivate and nurture the spirit of volunteerism because the lessons that you learn from this subject can inspire you to do great things outside of the classroom. Community immersion, disaster relief, and environmental protection are just few examples of the activities students may experience while enrolled in the NSTP. But this might be just things to pivot you in the direction of serving your communities, and this time through actual free will, through actual volunteerism. PNVSCA supports and advocates for NSTP and its proper implementation in SUCs and HPIs. In fact, PNVSCA provided inputs in the NSTP module developed by the PSNE, or the Philippine NSTP Educators and Implementers Incorporated. So speaking of NSTP and the NSRC, let me reiterate the vision of your university for you, NSTP students and reservists. As you ask yourself these questions, may everyone reflect and think of how to make the NSTP goals, our goals, become a reality. Are you graduates or soon-to-be graduates with a high level of sociocultural, economic, political, and environmental consciousness, aware of the relevant and timely issues on civic welfare and nation building? Are you graduates or soon-to-be graduates who are active and have sustained engagement in civic welfare and nation-building activities, equipped with adept skills, enabling competencies, right mindset, and an attitude that is critical, caring, creative, humble, and liberating? And lastly, are you graduates or soon-to-be graduates who share, instill, and develop skills, competencies, right attitudes, and values that rouse collective actions and empower the citizenry for nation building and civic welfare? In closing, let me once again thank the University of the Philippines, Diliman, especially the NSTP, for inviting us to keynote today's momentous event where we celebrate volunteerism and understand just how important it truly is. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig ng sa mga narito sa Zoom and YouTube, at nawa ay ipagpatuloy ang aktibong partisipasyon sa mga susunod na parallel sessions. We hope that it is clear to us, volunteerism is not just an emergency response, but a strategy to achieve our local, national, and international development goals. We hope it is clear to us that sustainable volunteering is ensuring that we do the right things, that our volunteer intervention does not expose people to additional risks, but leave them with positive results from which they could build upon. And as we approach the National Volunteer Month, the month of December, we enjoin everyone to take part as we celebrate the National Volunteer Month with various events and fora throughout the month of December. For the details of the events, please visit our Facebook page, PNVSCA. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.